Hey guys, welcome to the Outfitter Connection podcast. I'm your host, Austin Pressey, and this week we have a very special guest, Mr. Tony Tebbe with Predator University. How's it going, brother?
Good, good. How you been?
Good, man. You're out of beautiful state of New Mexico, the land of enchantment, and you are a coyote killing fool.
Kind of, kind of got hooked on it a long time ago, and still addicted.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I hear you. If you don't mind, kind of dive into a little bit, give the 30,000 foot view of who you are and what you're about.
Sure, sure. I'm Tony Tebbe. I hail out of the southeast corner of New Mexico. I moved here from the Midwest for one purpose only, to be immersed in coyotes. Um, my addiction to coyotes started ever since I was a little kid, listening to them howling in movies. Lived on a farm, saw and killed my first coyote when I was 14 with a 22 long rifle, and got addicted. And when I turned 16, where I had a driver's license, I could go pick up permission to more land than what my 2 feet could take me to. And I pretty much had the whole county. And I've been going crazy coyote hunting ever since. I went to college, had a normal job, used to head up IT departments for companies, but all my vacation time was saved to travel all over the country and call coyotes. Even if I went on an elk hunt, let's get an elk down so we can call coyotes. If we went on mule deer hunt, let's try to kill out first day. So I've got 6 days of coyote hunting to do. It's just that's just always been the main focus. And when I had the opportunity to leave corporate USA, I decided to start my retirement job 25 years early. And I always wanted to be a guide and an outfitter. And so that's what I do. Besides that, I record, we raise our own coyotes. I record sounds. I've got probably the largest library available, about 800 sounds, all for treasure hunting. And this is what we do 24/7.
I love it, man. I know a few years ago I had an e-collar that we downloaded some of your sounds on, purchased and you've got some killers.
I put my heart and soul into them, and really focus on what triggers coyotes. By hunting coyotes a lot, and more importantly, raising coyotes. You get to a point where you figure out what triggers them. And we'll get into those topics. Um, they're not humans. They don't think like humans.
Yes,
They're an
sir.
animal, and
Yeah.
I think that's what makes my sounds, a little different. I don't over edit them. Um, I do extended play, so it's not just a repetitive loop. And I don't know. I wanted to build a better mousetrap, and I feel like I have.
Yes, sir. Yeah. I know that whenever we used your calls, it seemed they really got them riled up. They really got them worked up, and they got a little more aggressive than just the normal. It's nothing for everybody to go buy an e-collar and set it out in the field and play baby cottontail. That seems to be one of the top ones. But coyote hunting is more about coyote vocalizations than what a lot of people realize.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I'm addicted to hard charging coyotes. And to get hard charging coyotes, you got to get under their skin and in their ear. And hard chargers are a little harder to kill because they're going to leave as fast as they came, and they're hard to stop before they knock the collar over. But that's where I get my thrill. That's where I get my high. I don't have a gun with me when I'm guiding, you
Mhm.
know. So I want to see hard charging coyotes that are 100% convinced, that there's a real coyote fight going on, or that there's a female coyote in heat right there, or there's a jackrabbit with the world hurt going on with him. And that's coyotes that sneak in. Yeah, I mean, they're easy to kill, but that don't get my goat. I'm all about hard chargers.
You want them to almost run right into your lap and then think
Absolutely.
twice about their life decisions whenever they realize that, oh hell, that's not a coyote that's making that noise.
Absolutely. Some of my most favorite stands I can remember were ones that we never killed a coyote, but um, I got bit. So
Oh no.
yeah.
um with the Predator University and your outfitter, it's you're focused not only on calling in coyotes, but also teaching people how the coyote brain
Yeah,
works.
yeah, and you know, and the name Predator University, I always loved that name. My buddy and I were in Nebraska in the Sandhills, uh, hunting coyotes for a week, and we were coming home, and I was pitching this idea of what a Predator University was originally going to be was kind of like the when I was a kid, there was the Time Life book series of how to how to do plumbing in your house or how to build a garage, you know, those kind of things, or how to fix a leaky faucet. So Predator University was going to be a DVD set, very specific DVD, you know, affordable DVDs, very specific to a topic, and just get immersed in that topic. You know, and so you can go and if night calling was nothing to you, then skip all the night calling ones. You know, I'm a day caller and I want to learn about hand calling. Okay, focus on these DVDs. And then you know how snowball goes. I thought, you know what, I want to go ahead and create an outfitting business that's not only fun to come out and see a bunch of coyotes and kill a bunch of coyotes, but go home with a whole lot of information and apply it and get way more out of your hunt than just a tailgate of fur. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing that for 18 years, I think.
Hmm,
So
nice. What are what are some of those common misconceptions in the world of predator hunting, and
mm,
how do you handle a lot of those?
yeah. Let's that's a broad topic, so I'll focus on let's say client coming to a hunt and what misconceptions they may have. I've had quite a few guys that were brand new into predator hunting, and their only exposure to it is what they watch on YouTube videos. Well, it doesn't look too hard. You go out, you sit down, you press play, and as a coyote comes in on every single stand. That's not the case in real life. But you know, the joy of editing, nobody wants to watch a bunch of blank stands, so you only see the highlight reel. But there's some people that are convinced that that was how it was done. Um, you got to get up and move. Um, you know, you got to put distance between your stands. Um, and that distance, depending on your terrain, could be as little as 600 yards, or it could be like in my open country, a mile and a half between stands. That kind of blew some people's minds away because they thought watching videos, you just sit here and your coyote come in, you kill it, and another coyote come in, and you sit there all day long like you're on a deer blind. That's not predator hunting. It's all about running and gunning, slipping into a coyote's bedroom, piss him off, bring him in, kill him, go to the next house, and just keep doing that all day long.
Yeah, just running from house to house and doing
Kick the
knock and
door
talk
open.
essentially.
Yeah, kick the door open. They're either going to run out the back door, or they're going to run right to you. One or the
Yeah.
other. Yes, sir.
Now I know in kind of you and I we live a few hours apart. I live in the Texas side of the world, and you live in New Mexico. There's a lot of predator contests in Texas, and I believe you guys have a few in New Mexico, or
We
did
yeah
they
yeah
do away with
yeah
that?
they outlaw it. They outlawed that 6 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there's no more contest in New Mexico. We used to have some good contests. I used to be a competition hunter, hunted the world championships 4 times, and always did good. Top seven, tied for first. But also, most of my hunting was in New Mexico. I was always along the New Mexico Arizona border because that's within 5 hours of check-in.
Yeah.
But a new governor got elected, and that was her promise to some people throwing a whole lot of money their way to get rid of coyote calling contests. So
Yeah,
um,
and
no,
that seems to be the theme the last few years, because where I'm currently at up in Michigan, they just had the proposal G debate where that the NRC basically took up social science as opposed to sound science and evidence. How does that affect your calling stuff? Because I do know that you have a lot of clients up in this area.
yeah. Well, it definitely affects my business. Uh, Michigan is where you're at. Where you're at is It's got a whole lot of predator hunters, and they come to me for a whole lot of sounds. Michigan and Ohio probably out of the 50 states, and then I do business in other countries, but I would say the lion's share of my business comes out of Michigan and Ohio. So that's definitely going to affect my business. That's a sticky situation because on one hand, as a conservationist, and I absolutely love coyotes. We bottle raise them and what have you. That taking a little break during the summer would definitely refresh the population.
Mhm.
But on the other side, I'm a sportsman, and I don't like to see sportsmen lose any rights. Because I've seen it here in New Mexico. If they, from a what do you want to call them, an animal rights activist perspective, if you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. And then they're going to take another mile, and before you know it, your head spins, and you're like, "Holy crap, we can't even hunt no more."
Right.
And then that's not the world I want to leave my grandchildren in.
Absolutely. And it is, like you said, it's a slippery slope. We didn't, there are some people that saw it coming up here, but they're, at the same time, it was like, man, I really don't think that's going to pass. There's enough science to show that it does have an effect, a little bit of an effect on numbers, but it's not enough to warrant a closed season. And then sure enough, they kind of took the greenie or the anti side to it and shut it down for those 3 months, which in my opinion, I don't think that shutting down coyote hunting during that part of the year is a brilliant idea, just because you've got your whitetail that are dropping fawns at that time, your turkeys that are nesting, your waterfowl that's nesting, your upland game, your rabbits, squirrels.
That's when the pressure should be squeezed on them.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's a two-way slippery slope. It's, you give an inch, they take a mile, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a tough one. During the summer, we hunt coyotes during the summer here. I run decoy dogs, and that's a huge joy to me because of the interaction and the very aggressive coyotes defending a den. But it's a personal choice that I won't shoot the coyotes because I'm just doing it for the joy of the dog, or B, if we do shoot a coyote, we shoot only the males so the female can raise the puppies. But as an outfitter, I'm selfishly wanting a good population come fall. If I was hunting for other reasons like defending duck nesting areas, or if we had a turkey population here that I was really wanting to defend, I wouldn't want government dictating that I can or can't hunt.
Right. It comes down to one of those things. Oh, who was it? Was it Ronald Reagan that came out on a speech one day and said, like, we're the government and we're here to help, and it only ever gets muddier. And it's especially true in the hunting world.
He said never trust anyone who says, "Hi, I'm from the government, we're here to help you." Yeah.
Yes, sir. What are some of those essential tips that you have for somebody that is either brand new to coyote hunting or even your expert coyote hunter? What's one of those tips that kind of overlay into both worlds?
Coyotes aren't human. That's a good one. A lot of people want to give. I mean, coyotes are extremely crafty. They're extremely wary, but they don't have the brain capacity of a human. They can't think like human logic, and so a lot of people try to give them a human personality or reasoning or what have you. Coyotes are an animal. They're reactionary, and you don't have to do things like lay out a story. I hear it a million times. Well, hey, I started out my stand with a howl, and the coyotes howled, but they didn't come. Well, okay, that's because you said, you walked in a bar and said, "Hey guys," and they said, "Hey." That has nothing to do with, nothing to do with calling at all.
Oh,
That was just, they're reactionary. You don't have to lay out a story. I'm going to be a female. I mean, it could be fun, but it's it serves no purpose. I'm a female coyote, and then I'm going to answer with a male, and then and then we're going to pair up, and we're going to do this, and then we caught a rabbit, and then we got in a fight. That doesn't mean nothing to a coyote. It's all about it's all about like chumming for shark is probably the best analogy. I've been on so many stands where I'm playing rabbit distress and coyotes come in, working with my decoy dogs and got a bunch going on. And everybody gets tired. They go lay down in the shade. I'll switch to puppy distress. Those coyotes jump to their feet like they've never heard a sound before. Come running right to the collar. Do it again. Everybody gets tired. They're panting. They lay back down. I put on the same rabbit distress. They jump up like they've never heard it in their life, and here they come running again. I did that for 45 minutes straight. Um, didn't shoot a single coyote. I had 11 of them on that stand,
oh,
and I
geez.
didn't shoot one because my gun was at home.
Yeah.
But I
And
filmed the whole thing.
it's coyote hunting is one of those deals where you're trying to appeal to one of their senses, right? Where it's either they're
Mhm.
hungry, they're territorial, or they're looking for something to mate.
Yep, or yep, that pretty much covers it. Yeah, either food, fight, um,
Hmm.
have sex, or make a friend. You know,
Yeah.
I call it the 4 Fs,
Yeah.
but yeah, you got to trip. And so when I do a coyote stand, I want to appeal to all four of those.
Okay.
You know, and if I don't get a response or what I'm looking for on all four of those, I pick up, move to the next stand.
Yeah.
You know,
What is?
you
Oh,
go
I'm
on.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Oh, what is your average time on stand? Because I hear multiple people, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
Yeah,
30 minutes. Do you
yeah.
put a time limit on it, or is it just
I
roll with?
don't, I don't, I don't put any time limit on it. I go by gut. Each stand's different. Um, I would say on average, my coyote stands are probably 15 minutes long. If I'm night calling, they're probably more like 35 minutes long. And if I'm in a contest, they're 7 minutes long.
Okay. And those contests, and for people that may not understand contest hunting, you have essentially, depends on how it's set up, either 23 or 24 hours to bag as many as you can.
Yep.
And I've seen people roll into weigh-ins with as little as one, and I've seen people that have rolled in with 10 or 20
Yeah. Or 60.
or 60. Yeah. Them Smith boys over there in West Texas, they've got it going on with coyote numbers.
Absolutely. Yep.
But they're proficient with what they do.
Exactly right. And when I would hunt in the world competition, 7 minutes is what I would stick to because to me, 80% of your coyotes are going to come in the first 7 minutes when you're calling, and 80% of those are going to come in the first minute or two. So even when I'm pleasure hunting, um, after about 5 minutes on stand, I'm already thinking about my next stand. I'll go ahead and run it out, for the next 10 minutes, but I'm expecting a coyote to show up in the first couple of minutes when I start calling. It don't take them long to cover ground.
Especially when you get them charged up, they will. I've seen them close in from 1,000 all the way in our face before, and it was like, where in the world did he cover that much time that fast? And all it takes is for him to drop into one drainage, one low spot, and get away from you for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's eyes everywhere because you're scanning constantly, looking like, where's he going to pop up at? And it's always downwind, or 90% of the time, I would say it's downwind. You'll get that
Yes.
one dumb one that kind of throws caution to the wind, and he'll do the exact opposite of what you think he's gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I think coyotes go downwind is because that's just how they hunt. A lot of people say, well, they're going downwind to check if it's a human. They don't have that kind of reasoning in their head. They go downwind because they hunt like a bird dog. If you ever ran bird dogs like on railroad tracks, they'll run down that brush line on the downwind side because they can use their nose. Same with a coyote. Once they get downwind of that prey can stop squealing, but they already got them, and they just follow that scent going right to it. Where you see So I would say probably 85% of the time a coyote's going to go downwind. Unless you're using vocals, then those rules are thrown out. They'll they'll come from any direction to coyote vocals or pup distress. They'll just come running right to it.
That that pup distress has always been one of those, like, if I can't get one to respond to anything, I'll throw that on that time of year, and it's like, oh shit, here we go, here they are.
Yeah, well, and that goes back to animals aren't humans. You can play. You know, I've got a sound called Fresh Pup 3, little bitty tiny coyote pup that was probably only yay big.
Hmm.
And you could play that in like January with snow on the ground. They don't think about, oh, hey, that's an odd time of year for a coyote pup. And they're
Yeah.
going to come in. They're going to come in for two reasons. They're either going to come to try to defend it or eat it. And so like in the springtime when I'm decoying, there's lots of stands where I'll call in a triple, and I'm thinking in my head, I'm thinking, okay, there's a pair, and then they've got an extra female hanging out with them, help take care of pups or what have you. They'll come in, and once they get to that maybe 200-300 yard mark, they fan out into hunting formation, and we go to putting the killing on them, and they're all three males. They never come to eat that puppy. They weren't coming to defend it.
Yeah.
It's an
And
easy
that,
meal.
yeah. And that's such a weird dynamic for any species of wildlife. You see it with lions, you see it with a bunch of your big cats, and then coyotes are no different on that front.
Yep. Yep. Just like in areas like let's say in the Midwest, my dad said back when he was a kid, there was a lot of fox.
Mhm.
So, when I started calling coyotes back in the 80s, fox were off limits because the coyote population started picking up and the fox numbers went down. How does that happen? Is because they just dig up the pups and eat them. Over a few years, the fox population zilch because they keep eating the puppies.
And I have noticed that in areas where you have a high population of coyotes, you don't have fox, or not as many. And then switch that over. If you have a bunch of fox, you typically don't have a bunch of coyotes. And I feel that almost conveys back into cats as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed in a few places that I've hunted coyote that if I know I can go out there every other month and shoot a bobcat on it, that's usually not a place that I'm calling for dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. You get in some places, let's say like San Angelo, where they've been flying, trapping, poisoning, and shooting coyotes for 150 years. You know, the coyotes that there are coyotes there, not in the numbers, but with their absence, the fox and cat population explodes. We were down in El Dorado, and we averaged 48 fox a night for 3 nights straight in the month of July. Um,
Jeez.
you know, uh, Also, we were west of San Antonio, and I guided there, and we called 9 cats the first night and 6 cats the next night. We didn't see any coyotes.
Jeez.
So it's hard to find that place that's got a great balance of coyotes and cats. Usually, when you're focusing on them, you're going to a specific area, and the coyote numbers are low, the cat and fox numbers high, just like
Yep.
you said. Yes,
What's
sir.
one of those? What's one of those like essential pieces of gear whenever you go out to the field? It's like I've got, my rifle, I've got a collar. What's that third key to your success?
Got a rifle and I got a collar. Gas.
Yes.
Gasoline, yeah. Yeah. And this goes back, and I've seen this over the years, and that's kind of one of the reasons I started Prairie University. Was on talk forums way before Facebook or Instagram and all those were invented. Back on talk forums, you would see so many guys that say, all right, guys, I've got my AR-15, I've got my Fox Pro. How do I call a coyote? you know, and they don't even know if they're going to even like coyote hunting, but they just done invested, a couple $1,000s.
Mhm.
And then they try it out and find out it's a little harder than they thought, or maybe it's not as exciting as they thought, or maybe they didn't have enough land to sustain, more than 2 stands. And then a few months later, they put their stuff up for sale, and I'm the guy that goes around and buys it up for pennies on the dollar. um, so I always said that a person's best investment is gasoline. Getting out, getting out and observing coyotes, getting out and calling, and most importantly, getting out and knocking on doors and meeting landowners and picking up permission. The more land you got, the better.
Yes, sir.
You know, you try to go an entire hunting season on, you know, a handful of 40-acre places, you're not going to be a very successful predator hunter.
No, sir.
So yeah, I'd say gasoline. You know, you know, and things we fast forward 20 some years, and I still have the same issue. I have a gentleman that called me yesterday that wants to get into predator hunting, hasn't killed a coyote yet, wants to looking at buying a collar with every sound I produce, which is 800 and some sounds, which has got a pretty hefty price tag. He's also in the midst of having a custom rifle built. He's got to get his suppressor, and he's got to get his thermal scope. You know, this poor gentleman's probably going to be in the hole for 25, 30 grand and hadn't even killed a coyote yet. You know, and so one of the things that I teach is just getting to the basics. You know, when I started predator hunting, it was a hand call and a deer rifle. I didn't know anything about shooting sticks. I didn't know anything about a butt pad that, hey, I could actually sit down and not have mud and water soak up, you know, in my pants. You know, I believe in everything in life, business, predator hunting, anything, walk before you run.
Yes,
And I think a lot of, and it's probably the internet that has to do with that. A lot of people want to skip all those steps. And those are all building foundations to be a successful predator caller. And, you know, woodsmanship. There's a whole lot of people that don't have woodsmanship. That's pretty essential when you're any kind of a hunter.
yes, sir.
You know,
Yeah, it's not like, and I'm not bashing deer hunters by any stretch of the imagination here, but it's predator hunting is the great equalizing. It's not, you can spend, like you said, 20 or $30,000 to get all the gear for coyote hunting. Every piece of gear that's ever been made for predator hunting, you can buy all of it. Doesn't mean you're going to go kill a coyote. You can go spend 20 or $30,000 and shoot the biggest whitetail you've ever seen on a high fence ranch in Texas with as little invested as a custom rifle or a rifle.
But
off
it
the
doesn't
counter.
mean you're a deer hunter.
Correct. Correct. It's all about the applied science to what you've seen, what you've learned, and that helps aid in killing predators.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I've learned more about predator hunting on unsuccessful stands than I have successful stands. You know, I've been doing this now for 42 years, and I learn something every day I go out calling, and I go out calling a lot.
How many days of the year do you think you spend in field?
Starting next year, I'm going to slow down. But I would hunt hardcore starting about mid-September through January, and would run maybe 7 hunts a month, maybe 3 days off, each month.
Wow.
And it's too hardcore. Right? As our online business has just grown over the years, I could spend my entire day doing nothing but putting together packages and mailing them. So starting next year, I'm slowing that down to just 2 hunts a month.
Okay.
Subsequently, I'm all booked up next year, and I'm half booked up the year after that.
There you go. It's the predator collar world, the e-collar specifically. That's changed a lot in the last 20 years as well, because I remember sitting with my dad on a couple stands with him on our family farm in Missouri, where it was the old Fox Pro cassettes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was just a little cassette player and a speaker, and you set it out there.
The Johnny Stewart one.
Johnny Stewart, yep. Yes, there's not Fox Pro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I still have mine, matter of fact.
Do you really?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. I spent, you know, like for vacation for 11 years, my brother and I would go out to Southern Idaho and fly into Boise or drive, go 2.5 hours from the nearest town, and just live in the desert for 10 days, call for coyotes for 8 days. And those were all spent behind a Johnny Stewart tape collar. And, you know, some great memories. Beautiful, beautiful country,
Yes, sir.
and a lot of coyotes. And but yeah, they've really, they essentially haven't changed. Once the digital versions come out, they're all basically just an MP3 player. With some have more options than the others. But when you look at the top three companies, they're all pretty much the same. It's just a matter of you know um, what sounds will they play, who's offering sounds, and is a sucker going to break?
Mhm.
You know.
I I've had a few of the lower end ones that would actually like freeze up when it got too cold. You know, the buttons
Hmm.
would stick or the collar would just start acting funny, or you'd lose battery almost an hour out in the field, and it's like, man, this does not work for me.
Yeah, and that's why hand call. That's why learning to hand call is essential. And
Mhm.
I would say if you got on, let's say, Facebook and took all the predator callers on there, which are a lot, and lined them up, I would say 90% don't know how to even hand call.
Yep.
That's an issue because it's not a matter of when electronics, if it's going to fail you, it'll fail you. It's just a matter of when. Um, I was a die. That's how I kind of started. That's how I built my name up. I was a custom hand call builder for 25 years. Um, and making what started out as just the every man's hand call to getting into making hippo ivory and African ebony and all these pieces that I would build, and then somebody would add it to their collection on a shelf, but they wouldn't use it. Well, that's not why I started building hand calls.
Yeah.
So I got away from that, and the electronic world had really grown. Um, so I thought, if you can't beat them, join them. So I didn't have the brain capacity or the capital to say, let's start an electronic call company, or the urge. I don't want to be in warehouse distribution.
Right.
Um, but I damn sure knew how to make an animal squeal. So I focused on, being a sound recorder. It's no different than, and what makes my sounds different is, no different than like George Strait. He could care less if you play his music on a Panasonic or on a Pioneer stereo, or he don't care. Just play my music. So
Yep.
my sounds work on every call brand because I want everybody to have a copy of my sounds.
That's awesome. Getting back into the predator hunting tactics, what
Uh-huh.
how do factors such as weather, terrain, time of day, how does all that affect your coyotes, and even time of year?
Okay.
How does that change up what you're using for sounds?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Time of day throughout the year is kind of consistent with deer hunting or any animal movement. It doesn't matter if you're a bird watcher or you know, an elk hunter or a predator hunter. Um, it usually the first 2 hours of the morning and the last hour before dark. Those are usually your best times. Um, we call coyotes all day long and have success all day long. There's different things that cause that, be it barometric pressure, a storm coming in. I know I've found that coyotes are very tied to the weather, and not necessarily the weather going on right now, but the weather that's coming in a few days. And the only way they know that is barometric pressure changes. Um, and then the nighttime, um, usually those first 2 hours after dark and those first couple hours before sunrise seem to be peak times. But you may find that there's a 10:30 till midnight spike as well. So I feel like animal movement in general, not just for coyotes, but just all animals, goes in peaks and valleys throughout the day and night. Um, and you gotta get through the valleys to get to those peaks if you want them. You can't predict
Absolutely.
them. Um, I've seen many, many, many nights. If it's a full moon, the calling sucks.
Mhm.
Um, but about noon, that coyote calling could be really, really good from noon till sunset. Or noon till moonrise. That is a good thing about working around the moon. If the moon came up at 9 o'clock last night, it's going to come up at 10 o'clock the next night, and 11 o'clock the next night. It's in 1 hour. Later, it keeps coming up, so you can adjust your schedule to that. Um, Throughout the year, things change. Let's start with fall and work our way around. Um, Fall, October, or September. September can be a little hot most of the country. Let's say October, the coyotes are at the highest population they're going to be throughout the whole year. You have all the pups. Let's say your coyotes have an average of, let's say, 7 pups, and every pair had some. Your population is up 700-800% from what it was last winter. Um, so uh, rabbit distress is key. Playing on those cottontails, jackrabbits, um, getting into some coyote fights. You may still have some parents that are defending late pups at that time, um, but it's kind of happy-go-lucky. You've got a lot of prey out. You got a lot of coyotes out, so it's all focused on prey distress. When you start getting into winter and cold months, same thing, fights and prey distress. You get into breeding season, come January, February, even into March. They start. You'll notice that they start responding less to the rabbit and more to vocals. So it's a lot more howling and a lot more fighting and breeding sounds. Um, then there's a quiet period, which we're going through right now, which is post breeding, but not quite denning. Things get kind of quiet. You can still definitely get into them, with some prey distress, and then fights. The females are extremely territorial. I grew up predator hunting and always reading fur fishing game or what have you. That man, the males are so intelligent because when you call in a pair, they hang back and let the female come in and sacrifice her. That's bull crap. The females come in first because they are aggressive. I raise coyotes, and when a female comes into heat, she turns into a royal bitch, and she will knock the snot out of any female around, because she's going to find her mate, she's going to defend an area, and she will defend to the death to protect those puppies that are about to come. Um, so you prey on that. April, May, June, July, August is all about howling and puppy distress. I don't play any rabbit during those months because A, puppy distress works so good, and B, I don't want to call in a group of puppies because I'm not there to shoot puppies. I'm there to shoot aggressive coyotes.
Yep. Shoot those
and then the cycle
potential
starts all over
problem
in the fall
dogs.
again.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
What is it like raising your own pack of coyotes? That's something that's always intrigued me. They're a fascinating animal on just their social dynamics.
Yeah. I, I've always said that raising a coyote is like having a dog on Ritalin. They're extremely hyper.
Mhm.
We get them. I look for dens every time I'm hunting. 99% of the time you'll find a den, it's empty. Because they don't use the den for all that long. But even a blind pig can find an acorn. I found a couple of dens and get puppies out of them. And you got to have them. There's only a 2-week period from the time they're born and their eyes are closed. So you got to get them during that period. If their eyes are already open, then they're never going to be as socialized or friendly as when their eyes were closed. And that's with any wild game. We bottle raise them in the house. Um, they chew on everything. Um, Not very trainable.
Mhm.
But the things I've seen is, even we're talking about puppies that are only, 4 or 5 inches tall. They would go into my daughter's room and get like a little stuffed animal or a sock. And if they wanted it, you are getting it from them. For 30 minutes, this little bitty puppy, the size of a half-grown Chihuahua. She wouldn't let go of my daughter's sock, so I just held it. And I held it for a half an hour until my arm about gave out, and she would just hang on like a pit bull would. They just lock on, and they're hyper focused. My coyotes eat high protein dog food. They get 5-way shots, they get rabies shots, the whole kit and caboodle. I tried when they were little, in the kitchen to give them like a ham bone. I was doing some ham steaks, and the fight was on, they go ballistic. So I vowed for them to never eat raw meat again because they turn into instant, buttholes.
Mhm.
um, but I spend every day I go out there with my coyotes. I pet them. They play on them. They're super friendly. I would trust my female coyote Canty over any dog as far as loyalty. Um, no, they're a cool animal. Oh, and howl. You got to live in the country because my coyotes will howl 50 times a day, every day.
And it's
Which is great because it takes me back to my childhood of watching and listening to coyotes in Western movies when I was 8 years old and just got addicted to coyotes because of it.
yeah, it,
So
it provides that sense of nostalgia for you. Man, I couldn't imagine having like a bunch of little coyotes running around the house. That would be. It's not for everybody, and I'm not recommending anybody do it unless you know what you're doing.
yeah, yeah, and like the things I skipped, like we would kennel them at night. There is and put in a puppy pad. Puppy's pad shredded, feces everywhere because they don't know anything about potty training whatsoever. It's not in their DNA.
Yeah.
Um, when they did get in a fight over that little ham bone, um, I got bit by one of them, and they have hypodermic needles for teeth, and it went all the way through my finger, both teeth,
Oh,
and bled. Oh my God, the blood poured down me.
I
Um,
couldn't
so
imagine.
yeah, yeah. So I skipped it. I skipped that thing, and it was my fault. I should have. I learned you don't give them raw. They turn automatic wild when you feed them raw meat.
That's crazy. It's something in there that flips that switch.
Uh-huh. And what's
That's
really neat is like my coyotes. My coyotes got the lap of luxury. They have an outdoor kennel. They have an indoor kennel, um, heated and air conditioned. That indoor kennel has a drop door that I drop. Inside there, it's acoustic foam. That's my sound recording booth, so I can get pristine, clear sounds with no echo or outside noise. Um, and I was going somewhere with that. Lost it.
that's okay.
um, Yeah, but fat, happy, furred up beautifully. Um, they're just a cool animal.
Now,
Um,
do you use your coyotes as your decoy dogs as well, or they are
no,
primarily just
no,
for
they
sound?
that's yeah, they're just for sound. Now, if they would, they're 6 years old. If they would ever have a litter of pups for me, which they haven't had any pups yet, he tries to breed, but she rolls over on her back. She's very submissive to him. She rolls on her back and squeals and that, and you can't quite mate like that position.
Hmm.
So I think it's her fault that they don't have puppies. But I get a ton of great recordings with at least him attempting. Um, so I think I'll have to just spend time trying to find another coyote den to get some puppies. Um, if I do get another batch of pups, I will train one to on a leash. We can walk it down the road. I really want to go through the McDonald's drive-through with a coyote sitting in my front seat with me. Get an extra cheeseburger for it. But I
Absolutely.
don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to jeopardize my recording artists
Hmm.
by getting them out and putting them on a leash.
Yeah,
They got a job and they do their job very, very well. So
that's
that's their
awesome.
destiny in life. Eat, sleep, get fat, and howl.
Yeah. What's what's one of those hunts that you've done that is like it's just the one that sticks out the most to you, like your most memorable, either with a client or whenever you're out hunting just for yourself, or maybe
Um,
there's a couple of them.
yeah. I've got a few. One time I had a pair. I had two clients from Maryland, and both running AR-15s, and we went calling, had a good day. Cottontail Distress, Cottontail Candy specifically, one of my sounds was working really, really good. The next morning, absolutely beautiful. Go to a ranch that I don't go to very often, know that it's chock full of coyotes, and specifically the stand that I went to. Start playing Cottontail Candy. All right, let's get going. Nothing. Sun's coming up, beautiful, chilly out, good humidity. It seems like the coyote movement is also tied to humidity level. And we nothing happened. Oh, okay, crap. Let's switch it to a different cocktail sound. Nothing happened. Like, no, wait a second. Yesterday they were on. So I let out some vocals. A sound I got called Teen Spirit, just three young teenage coyotes yipping and howling. And the whole place lights up around us, mostly in front of us, just like I had hoped, but kind of all around us. And all of a sudden, you can see them out in the brush. Here they come. So I'm all excited. I'm trying to get my phone out so I could record this, get my client's point on it. I put some pup distress on, so now I got the howling and the pup distress going at the same time, which is not what I intended. And here they come in one wad from like 5 different directions, 16 coyotes.
Cool.
Yeah, and they just kept coming in waves. And my clients killed 6 coyotes on that stand, and I filmed the whole thing on my phone and put it on Facebook.
That's
That was a memorable one. Now,
yeah.
that was an amazing stand. How in the hell are you supposed to top that first stand in the morning? We went calling the rest of the day, calling blank stands. At lunchtime, we were coming back, and and I'm sitting there like, well, for one, hey, y'all hit your quota for the day anyway on coyotes. We were coming back, and I'm like, man, how can you beat that? I mean, these guys must have a rabbit foot in their pocket. We were coming back, and he said, hey, there's a coyote right there. And I said, where? And he goes, over by that cattle guard, right next to the county road. I said, okay, I'll turn around, and it's wide open right there. You guys hop out and kill that coyote. Pulled up to the cattle guard. I said, where at? He goes, it was right here. I swear to God. It comes out from under the cattle guard. It had a rabbit in there, apparently. It comes out and just trots a little bit and stands there, and it's an albino coyote. Never seen one in my entire life, And I said, kill that thing. He shoots it. He didn't realize just how rare of a coyote he had. I said, how rare black coyotes are, and he said, yeah. And I said, okay, so if there's black coyotes are 1 in 10,000, this is more like 1 in a million. Mm-hmm. Oh, so they got full body mounted in that. And it was on a ranch that the good thing is it was a little female, and it was a pup from that year. So she's like 3/4 grown. So that means that DNA is out there still. And it's on a ranch that we had hunted a female coyote that I coined Snow White. I just thought she was silver. Nobody killed her. I had 7 clients miss her 8 times in 5 years. Oh. And nobody's ever killed her. So this is like a daughter or a granddaughter or something from her. So that was kind of cool. That was in the same day. An albino coyote and called in 16 on one stand. That was pretty neat. Yeah. Neat. I'm trying to think. Another one would be, a good memorable hunt. These memories usually based on action. I had some clients come from Texas, and they wanted to shotgun. Their competition hunters. They wanted to up their day game. They kind of got the night game figured out. And so we went shotgunning for coyotes. We went down to brushy country, public land, and let's shotgun coyotes. And I called up 31 coyotes for them that day, and they killed probably 2/3 of them. And that was an all-time record. My long-standing record for probably 15 years was 28 coyotes I called in a day, but that was 31. So they came back the next year and said, I said, well, y'all set the bar. I don't know how we're going to accomplish that. And I'll be damned, same guys, same area, called 31 coyotes in a day again. So just lucky rabbits, but they happened to get, book their hunt at right when all the planets aligned, and called coyotes on almost every stand, and multiple coyotes at that.
I think my best stand, I think I called in a triple one day for a couple buddies, and that was like, we thought we were on top of the world. I couldn't imagine 16 or 30 coyotes in a day.
Yeah. Well, even so, let me add one more memory. One more memory would be when I was 16. back in Illinois. I was calling on this little sheep farm, and right at sunset, and the coyotes started howling down the creek, um, off of their property, but it was on another property I had. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to go pick my stuff up and I'm going to haul down there. So I hauled down there, and it was a creek bottom, what do you want to call it, field with a bunch of piles of manure. They had a hog confinement, a bunch of piles of manure. They're waiting to get put on the field in the spring. So I climbed up on these piles and started hand calling, and 6 coyotes showed up, and they were climbing on these manure piles next to me. Some were down below me, some were to my right, and I was young and thought I was going to get eaten. I was scared to death. um, and one of them was standing broadside right down below me in the edge of the field. I shot it. I'm running a bolt gun at that time, 223, and they all take off running across this open field straight away from me. And I shot 2 more, and I killed a triple. And I was only 16 years old. I went from being scared to death to like feeling like Michael Jordan.
Yes, sir.
So that probably cemented my addiction.
Yes, sir. And there's always that one moment in every hunter's life that, it was
Career.
that moment for them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty neat. It's so much fun because it's not sitting in a deer stand over a feeder or over a bean field or anything like that. You're having to make or entice them to come to you. And it's such a different world hunting predators than it is hunting prey.
Absolutely. And I do hunt prey,
Mhm.
but my 2 favorite things to hunt are elk and turkeys, because it's very similar to predator hunting. It's all about interacting with an animal and calling them.
Yeah.
So I think that's the addiction, is, the calling. The difference between, hunting a predator is you become, especially if you're hand calling, you become the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming to eat you.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed wolf hunting. I went calling wolves. I killed a lion. I killed a bear. But as soon as I get a wolf, then my bucket list is full, and then I'm going to be scratching my head what's to do.
Yes, sir. It's wolves are one of those. They're a neat and fascinating animal, but they're very destructive to their ecosystem, unmanaged. Right? Like, you've got states that have turned them out and you can't hunt them. Michigan's a prime example of that. Up in the UP, they released a bunch and then basically said we don't have any intentions of putting a season on them. And now there's not an elk population up there. There's not a moose population, not much of one to speak of anymore. And it's, as with anything else in the hunting world, everything needs human intervention on management.
Yeah, everything needs balance. Yellowstone is a prime example. I remember going to Yellowstone when I was a kid. I remember taking my older children there when they were young. It was a great place to look at majestic elk herds. And then they introduced wolves, and the elk are decimated. There's a reason our forefathers put so much pressure on them.
Yes, sir. That, unfortunately, it almost drove them to the point of extinction, but at the same time, fortunately for their prey, it did almost drive them to extinction, because if we would have left the wolf population unmanaged across the board, I don't think that we would be hunting anything in the States.
No. They're a big animal. They're a really big animal, and if they can take down a moose, heaven forbid you're that hiker that's lost for the night.
Oh yeah. I couldn't imagine being in a predicament. You hear stories all the time of like, oh, we were surrounded by wolves, and you're like, yeah, but were you really? And then you start like diving into the story, and it's like, oh no, you were in like the middle of wolf country. I'm out.
Exactly.
Coyotes at least have that little bit of human fear to an extent. I don't think wolves
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd only been really pressured by a coyote maybe 3 times in all the years I've been doing it, and it is usually because it was a female who, I'm out looking for coyote dens, and it's a female who's defending her den, and she's going to walk you all the way back to that truck,
Mhm.
you know, um, and rightfully so. That's her job,
Right.
you know.
That's
But they're not looking to tear you in half and eat you.
no, sir. Where do you think the predator world's going in the next 5 to 10 years?
That's interesting, especially kind of just sitting back and watching. Um, some parts of the predator world that's curious to see is thermal. I had clients that would come here on hunts with thermal, and when they did, it was a $30,000 Raytheon that was about as big around as a basketball on the end of the humongous. And you could see cattle 5 miles away with the dang thing. They were military surplus type stuff.
Mhm.
But they only the super rich had them. Well, now they're getting quite economical. Now you can probably go buy a new one for 900, 1,200 bucks. Just like flat screen TVs,
Mhm.
start out 10 grand. Now you go to Walmart for 200 bucks. Um, the thermal is going to be interesting on what its effect will be on predator hunting, because I watch guys from Indiana, Ohio, guys I've known all my life, and they post more coyotes in an evening that they've killed than they killed in an entire season or two when they were day hunters. You know, now what's that mean? With the popularity of thermal predator hunting, um, is the coyote population can it handle it? Is it going to explode as far as pop? I don't know. I don't know what its effects are going to be. It's going to be interesting to sit back and watch what it does. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's probably the biggest invention. Yeah, there's been advancements in rifles, but you know what? Rifles aren't probably all that much more accurate than my granddad's 30-06 was.
right.
There's been advancements electronic calls, but really not that much more than that Johnny Stewart did that we were talking about that came out in 1989 or 1980. Um, but thermal definitely changes the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have a prediction, but it's one that I'm definitely keeping my eye on to figure out what's it going to do to predator hunting.
Yes.
All I know is it's gotten a lot more popular. A lot
Yeah.
more guys a lot more guys have free time in the evening than they do during the day because they're out making a living.
Mhm.
I don't know. Curious. I think calling raccoons is probably um, going to increase as a predator hunting sport. Um, when I was growing up in high school, I had a pack of coonhounds. Everybody I knew had coonhounds. None of us or those guys I knew have them anymore because the fur market fell out of raccoons, and you can't afford, $700 to $1,200 dogs eating, $1,000 a month dog food bill without a fur market. So subsequently, the raccoon population has exploded in the Midwest because nobody's hunting them. So I think that's going to be an upcoming sport. It's popular in pockets with guys. It's exciting. Yeah, you can do it a day, you can do it at night. So I think that's part of the industry that we'll see in the next 5 years kind of really peak up.
Yeah. I agree. I took my friend's kids out in January for coon hunting, and neither one of them have ever done it. They trap, but they've never like gone out with this specific goal in mind of calling a raccoon. I was like, watch this, scanning trees, turn on the old collar, play coon fight, and 4 raccoons just pale out of this tree. You know, and whenever you've got a 10 and a 14-year-old, there's some things that happens at night, and just something didn't line up for the coons, so they all went back up in the tree. So I took the oldest, because it was pretty cold. I sent her and the youngest back to the truck. I took the oldest into this kind of a flooded timber spot. I said, we're gonna walk in here. I said, I'm gonna shine the light up in this tree, set the bog pot up, set his rifle up on it, and he shoots two of the biggest coons I've ever seen in my life. You know, one was 16 pounds, and the other one was at like 11 or 12 pounds. And we shot three out of the four. The fourth one we never could find in that tree again. I don't know if she went off to another tree or whatever, but the third one actually hung up in the tree, and we never could get that one down.
Ah,
But I think that week in total we trapped and shot 8 with her and her 2 boys. And man, you want to talk about a blast? It's just something to kind of fill an evening.
yeah. Well, it would. I guess you could look at it as like taking a kid bluegill fishing. You know,
Mhm.
a lot of guys want to take their kid coyote hunting with them. You know, but coyote hunting's more like we're going for muskie. You know,
Right.
you know. Whereas raccoons are plentiful, and you can screw it up, and you can, and all you gotta do is go down a few hundred yards and do it again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Um, Mr. Tony, we're coming up on about that hour mark, man.
Okay.
If you don't mind, kind of plug in your social medias, tell everybody where they can buy your sounds, where they can buy your merch, because I think in the predator calling world, I think you have some of the best looking merch in the world, just because it's
Oh, thank
simple,
you.
it's effective. Always been a fan of your merchandise. And then also I like to close out the episode with a piece of advice for the listeners from
Okay.
the guest. So if you don't mind.
Okay. Sure. You know, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm pretty easy to find. I spend a lot of time on Facebook. My wife has given me Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok, but I really don't log into any of them. I spend my time on Facebook. Just look me up by name, Tony Tebbe. Um, I run Prairie University. I run Tony Tebbe Signature Sounds, and I run Predator University, the guiding business. My phone number is easy to find. My email is easy to find on any of those websites. My website's www.predatoruniversity.com. There's a link to my store, or you can go to the store directly at predatoruniversity.store. That's how you get a hold of me.
Awesome,
Biggest advice would be to let me think about this. Get out and knock on doors and meet people. um, you know, I've put together over 1.5 million acres of private ground here in New Mexico because I took the time to get out, drive, meet people, shake their hand, network, and pick up land. And picking up land is easy in comparison to retaining land. And how you retain land is you treat it like it's your own. You take better care of it, you know, than anyone else would. You see trash, pick it up. You know, there's a beer bottle in the road, pick it up, throw it in your truck, what have you. Um, uh, just be respectful. You know, just treat people and treat their land like you would want someone to treat your living room. And once you get killing some coyotes, and you keep good communication with your landowners, next thing you know, their buddy is calling you and saying, "Hey, I heard you're doing good over at Doug's house. You want to come over and kill coyotes at mine?" And next thing you know, you start putting together and retaining an enormous amount of land. And it's all based on reputation, and that has really nothing to do with hunting. That's just for being a good person.
yes, sir.
So it's my best advice.
I love it, man. I appreciate you coming on. I've had a blast. I really hope that this episode provided some education to some people that were wanting to look at getting into hunting coyotes and predators, because I feel it definitely provides that value for them.
Good. I
Awesome,
appreciate
brother.
you asking me to be on, Austin.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I hopefully we'll get to meet up with you soon, being that you're kind of my next state neighbor.
Exactly. Next time you're down in Midland, let me know. It's
Okay,
only
I
2
will.
hours away.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's nothing. I drive just to fly up north instead of flying out of Midland. I'll drive all the way to San Antonio, and that's 5.5 hours from the house. So, yeah, a 2 hour drive is nothing for me.
Good deal.
Awesome, brother.
All
Well, I
right. Well,
appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
all right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Bye.